Niccolo Machiavelli. The name itself often conjures images of cunning politicians, ruthless power plays, and morally ambiguous tactics. He's become synonymous with manipulation, deception, and the infamous phrase, "the ends justify the means." Personal growth guru? Hardly. Or is he? Have you ever considered that beneath the layers of stereotype and historical baggage, there might be something surprisingly valuable, even personally transformative, to be gleaned from Machiavelli's often misunderstood philosophy? Could it be that this figure, so often associated with political maneuvering and strategic ruthlessness, actually holds unexpected lessons for your personal growth journey? It sounds paradoxical, almost absurd, to suggest that the author of The Prince, a book often perceived as a handbook for Machiavellian villains, could offer insights into becoming a better, more fulfilled, more effective person. But bear with me. Let's dare to look beyond the simplistic caricature, beyond the sensationalized interpretations, and delve into the core of Machiavelli's thought. What we might find is not a guide to becoming manipulative, but a surprisingly insightful, if sometimes uncomfortable, perspective on human nature, strategic thinking, and navigating the realities of the world. Lessons that, when applied thoughtfully and ethically, can indeed contribute to significant personal growth. It's a counterintuitive idea, but one worth exploring. Can Machiavelli, of all people, actually help us become better versions of ourselves? What if the very qualities we often criticize in Machiavellian figures, their strategic focus, their clear-eyed realism, their understanding of human motivations, are actually qualities we could benefit from cultivating in ourselves, not for manipulation, but for self-mastery and effective action in our own lives? Is it possible that our aversion to Machiavelli, our quick dismissal of his work as purely cynical, prevents us from accessing valuable insights into human behavior and strategic thinking that could actually empower us to navigate our own lives more effectively and authentically? To begin this exploration, we must first move beyond the pervasive stereotype and understand Machiavelli in a more nuanced and accurate way. This brings us to our first key point. Beyond the stereotype, Machiavelli misunderstood. The common image of Machiavelli is often reduced to a caricature, a cunning, ruthless, amoral advisor who advocated for any means necessary to achieve and maintain power. This caricature, while having some basis in certain interpretations of The Prince, is ultimately a superficial and incomplete understanding of his complex and multifaceted thought. To extract valuable lessons for personal growth, we need to dig deeper and understand the context and nuances of his work. It's crucial to remember the historical context in which The Prince was written. 16th century Italy was a turbulent and dangerous place, characterized by political instability, constant warfare between city-states, and the ever-present threat of invasion. Machiavelli was writing during a time of crisis, offering advice to rulers on how to survive and maintain order in this chaotic environment. The Prince was not intended as a general guide to ethical living or personal morality, but as a practical manual for political leaders facing extraordinary challenges. Its primary purpose was political stability and the preservation of the state, in a context where survival itself was constantly threatened. Furthermore, The Prince is fundamentally a work of political science, a treatise on statecraft and political strategy, not a work of moral philosophy or ethical guidance for individuals in their personal lives. Machiavelli was analyzing how power actually operates in the political realm, based on his observations of history and contemporary events, rather than prescribing how rulers ought to behave according to ideal moral principles. He was concerned with political effectiveness, with achieving concrete political outcomes in a realistic and often amoral world, rather than with abstract ethical ideals. Misunderstanding its genre is key to misinterpreting its message. It's a political playbook, not a personal ethics textbook. The infamous phrase, "the ends justify the means," often attributed to Machiavelli, is a gross oversimplification and doesn't accurately capture the complexity of his thought. While Machiavelli did argue that rulers must sometimes employ morally questionable actions to achieve necessary political ends, like maintaining order and preventing chaos, he wasn't advocating for a complete disregard for morality in all circumstances. His approach was more nuanced and pragmatic, recognizing that political action often takes place in a morally ambiguous realm where difficult choices must be made, and that sometimes the lesser of two evils is the only viable option for the greater good of the state. Reducing his entire philosophy to ends justify the means ignores the complexities and contextual considerations within his work. To truly understand Machiavelli's potential relevance to personal growth, we need to move beyond the caricature and focus on his core philosophical concepts. His emphasis on realism, his understanding of human agency within a chaotic world, and his focus on strategic thinking and planning. These concepts, while initially presented in a political context, can be surprisingly insightful and valuable when applied to the realm of personal development. The key is to extract the underlying principles and translate them ethically and responsibly into the context of individual growth, self-improvement, and navigating the complexities of personal life rather than political power struggles. This is where the unexpected lessons lie. This brings us to our first unexpected lesson from Machiavelli: realism and honesty, and how it can be a powerful tool for personal growth. Forget the manipulative tactics for a moment. Consider instead Machiavelli's unwavering commitment to seeing the world as it actually is, not as we wish it to be, or as we are told it should be. This unflinching realism, when turned inward, becomes a potent catalyst for self-awareness and genuine personal development. How can Machiavelli's realism help you grow? Let's explore. Machiavelli famously argued that a prince should be concerned with what is rather than what ought to be. In The Prince, he repeatedly emphasized the importance of observing reality as it is, in its messy, imperfect, and often morally ambiguous form, rather than being guided by idealistic notions or wishful thinking. He believed that effective action, particularly in the political realm, must be based on a clear-eyed and honest assessment of the actual world, not on how we might wish the world to be. This principle of realism, of facing reality without illusions, is a cornerstone of Machiavellian thought and holds significant value for personal growth. For personal growth, this translates into a radical commitment to self-awareness rooted in honesty and realism. It means facing ourselves, our strengths, and crucially, our weaknesses with unflinching honesty, avoiding self-deception, wishful thinking, or inflated self-images. Just as Machiavelli advised rulers to see the political world clearly, we must learn to see ourselves clearly, acknowledging both our positive and negative qualities, our capabilities and limitations, our virtues and our vices. This honest self-assessment, while sometimes uncomfortable, is the essential foundation for any genuine personal growth. You cannot improve what you do not honestly acknowledge. This Machiavellian realism applied to this self directly connects to the concept of emotional intelligence, particularly self-awareness and self-regulation. Understanding our own emotions, motivations, biases, and tendencies, both positive and negative, requires a similar kind of unflinching honesty and realistic self-assessment. Self-regulation, the ability to manage our emotions and impulses effectively, also depends on this realistic self-knowledge. We cannot effectively manage what we do not honestly understand about ourselves. Machiavelli's call for realism, therefore, becomes a call for a deeper, more honest, and more effective form of emotional self-awareness, a crucial component of personal growth. How do we cultivate this Machiavellian realism in our personal lives? One practical approach is through consistent self-reflection exercises rooted in radical honesty. Regularly ask yourself challenging questions. What are my genuine strengths, and where am I truly weak? What are my recurring patterns of self-sabotage? What are the uncomfortable truths about myself that I tend to avoid? Journal your reflections honestly, without self-justification or defensiveness. Seek honest feedback from trusted sources, even if it's critical. The goal is to create a clear, realistic, and unflinching picture of yourself in all your complexity and imperfection. This honest self-portrait, though potentially uncomfortable, is the starting point for genuine self-improvement. Another practical application is consciously challenging wishful thinking and self-deception. We often have a tendency to see ourselves as we wish to be, rather than as we actually are. Machiavellian realism requires us to actively counter this tendency. When setting goals, for example, honestly assess your current capabilities and resources, rather than relying on optimistic but unrealistic projections. When evaluating your performance, seek objective data and honest feedback, rather than selectively focusing only on positive information. Cultivate a habit of grounding your self-perception and your plans in a realistic assessment of yourself and your circumstances. This grounded realism, while sometimes less comforting, is ultimately far more empowering and effective in the long run. Moving beyond realism, we come to another unexpected lesson: virtue and agency, and how cultivating this Machiavellian concept can empower your personal growth journey. Virtue is a notoriously difficult term to translate directly, often misunderstood simply as virtue in the traditional moral sense. But Machiavelli's virtue is something far more dynamic, strategic, and personally empowering. It's not about being morally good, but about being personally effective in navigating the complexities of life. How can understanding virtue unlock your personal agency and drive your growth? Let's explore. Machiavelli's virtue is not about traditional moral virtue in the Christian sense. Instead, it refers to a set of qualities: skill, strength, courage, adaptability, intelligence, cunning, and proactive agency that enable a prince to effectively navigate fortuna, fortune, chance, or fate, and maintain his state. It's about possessing the capacity to act decisively, strategically, and effectively in a world that is inherently unpredictable and often hostile. Virtue is about personal effectiveness, strategic capability, and the proactive exercise of agency in a world governed by chance and circumstance. It is not about moral righteousness, but about practical power and effectiveness. Machiavelli recognized the significant role of fortuna in human affairs, the unpredictable forces of chance, fate, and circumstance that are often beyond our control. However, he didn't believe that humans were simply passive victims of fate. He argued that virtue, human agency, and capability could be used to mitigate the negative effects of fortuna and to actively shape one's destiny to the extent possible. Life, for Machiavelli, is a dynamic interplay between fortuna and virtue, between external forces and human agency. He emphasized the importance of cultivating virtue precisely because fortuna is inherently unpredictable and often unfavorable. Agency, skill, and proactive action are our best tools for navigating an uncertain world. For personal growth, virtue becomes a powerful call to cultivate personal agency, proactive action, and a sense of self-efficacy in our own lives. It's about moving away from a passive victim mentality and embracing our capacity to actively shape our own destinies to the extent that is within our power. It means taking responsibility for our choices, developing our skills and capabilities, and proactively pursuing our goals rather than simply reacting to external circumstances or passively waiting for things to happen to us. Cultivating virtue in personal growth is about becoming the active agent in your own life rather than a passive recipient of fate. This application of virtue directly aligns with modern concepts of self-efficacy, proactivity, and empowerment in personal development. Self-efficacy, the belief in our ability to succeed in specific situations or accomplish a task, is a key component of virtue. Proactivity, taking initiative and acting to create desired changes, is the practical manifestation of virtue. Embracing virtue in personal growth is about empowering ourselves, building confidence in our abilities, and taking decisive action to move towards our goals and create a more fulfilling life, even in the face of uncertainty and challenges. It's about shifting from a mindset of helplessness to a mindset of proactive agency and capability. How do we cultivate virtue in our personal lives? One key way is through consciously setting challenging goals and actively developing the skills and capabilities needed to achieve them. Identify areas where you want to grow, set specific and ambitious goals, and then create a plan to acquire the necessary skills and knowledge. Don't be passive in your development. Actively seek out opportunities to learn, practice, and improve. Embrace challenges as opportunities to build virtue, to strengthen your agency, and to expand your capabilities. Just as a prince hones his skills in warfare and diplomacy, we must hone our skills in the areas that matter most to our personal growth and fulfillment. Another way to cultivate virtue is by consciously taking calculated risks and actively building resilience in the face of setbacks and failures. Virtue is not about avoiding risk altogether, but about assessing risks strategically and being willing to take calculated chances to advance your goals. And when setbacks inevitably occur, as they will, virtue is about bouncing back, learning from mistakes, and persevering in the face of adversity. Resilience, the ability to recover quickly from difficulties, is a crucial component of virtue. Embrace challenges and failures as opportunities to build resilience, to strengthen your resolve, and to further cultivate your personal agency. Virtue is forged in the crucible of experience, including both successes and failures. Beyond realism and agency, we find another unexpected lesson: strategic thinking and planning, and how adopting a Machiavellian approach to strategy can be incredibly beneficial for personal growth. Machiavelli was a master strategist, analyzing political situations with keen insight, anticipating consequences, and developing long-term plans to achieve desired outcomes. While we are not seeking political power, adopting this strategic mindset in our personal lives can be transformative, helping us to navigate complexities, achieve our goals more effectively, and make more intentional choices. How can Machiavellian strategic thinking enhance your personal growth? Let's examine this further. Machiavelli's political philosophy is deeply rooted in strategic thinking. He emphasized the importance of long-term planning, anticipating potential obstacles and challenges, understanding the motivations and actions of others, and developing flexible strategies to achieve desired political outcomes. He wasn't focused on impulsive reactions or short-sighted tactics, but on carefully considered, long-term strategies designed to navigate complex and dynamic political landscapes. This strategic mindset, this emphasis on planning, foresight, and understanding the broader context, is another valuable lesson we can extract from Machiavelli for personal growth. Strategic thinking is about intentionality, foresight, and effective action towards long-term goals. For personal growth, this translates into adopting a more strategic approach to our own lives, applying strategic thinking to our personal goals, relationships, and overall life direction. It means moving beyond reactive living and impulsive decision-making, and instead developing a long-term vision for our lives, setting clear goals, anticipating potential challenges, and creating strategic plans to navigate towards our desired future. Strategic personal growth is about intentionality, planning, and consciously shaping your life's trajectory rather than simply drifting or reacting to external forces. It's about becoming the architect of your own life, rather than just a builder following someone else's blueprint. This Machiavellian emphasis on strategic thinking directly connects to modern personal growth principles of goal setting, long-term visioning, and intentional living. Setting clear, well-defined goals, both short-term and long-term, is a fundamental aspect of strategic personal growth. Foresight, anticipating potential challenges and opportunities, allows us to proactively prepare and adapt our plans accordingly. Intentionality, acting with conscious purpose and direction, is the driving force behind strategic living. By adopting a strategic mindset, we move from passively reacting to life's events to actively shaping our own experiences and consciously moving towards our desired future with greater clarity, purpose, and effectiveness. How do we apply strategic thinking practically in our personal growth? One powerful tool is through structured goal-setting exercises, breaking down large goals into smaller, manageable steps, and creating detailed action plans. Another valuable technique is scenario planning, anticipating different potential future scenarios, both positive and negative, and developing contingency plans to navigate various possibilities. Practice thinking several steps ahead, considering potential consequences of your actions, and developing flexible strategies that can adapt to changing circumstances. Just as a general plans for different battlefield scenarios, we must plan for different life scenarios, developing strategic flexibility and foresight in our personal journey. Strategic thinking also involves understanding motivations, both your own motivations and the motivations of others in your life. Machiavelli emphasized understanding the underlying drives and desires that motivate political actors. In personal growth, this translates to developing a deeper understanding of your own motivations. What truly drives you? What are your core values? What are your underlying desires and fears? And also developing a better understanding of the motivations of those around you, particularly in your close relationships. Understanding motivations, both internal and external, provides crucial insight for strategic decision-making and effective navigation of interpersonal dynamics in your life. Strategic thinking is not just about external planning, but also about internal and interpersonal awareness. Finally, beyond realism, agency, and strategy, we arrive at another crucial unexpected lesson: adaptability and flexibility, and how embracing these Machiavellian qualities can be essential for navigating the ever-changing landscape of personal growth. Machiavelli understood that fortuna, fortune, or chance is inherently fickle and unpredictable. Rigid plans and inflexible approaches are often doomed to fail in a world of constant change. Adaptability, the ability to adjust to changing circumstances, is therefore paramount for navigating both politics and personal life. How can cultivating Machiavellian adaptability enhance your resilience and growth? Let's explore. Machiavelli repeatedly stressed the importance of adaptability in the face of fortuna. He argued that a prince must be flexible, willing to adjust his strategies and tactics as circumstances change, and not be rigidly bound to a single approach. Fortuna is like a river, he famously wrote, sometimes calm and predictable, but often turbulent and unpredictable. To navigate this river successfully, one must be adaptable, willing to change course, adjust the sails, and respond effectively to the ever-shifting currents and conditions. This principle of adaptability, of embracing flexibility and responsiveness to change, is another invaluable lesson from Machiavelli for personal growth. Adaptability is about resilience, flexibility, and thriving in the face of constant change. For personal growth, adaptability translates into embracing change and uncertainty as inherent aspects of life, rather than resisting or fearing them. It means developing a flexible mindset, being willing to adjust our plans and expectations when necessary, and learning to navigate unexpected challenges and setbacks with resilience and resourcefulness. Life, like politics, is rarely predictable or linear. Adaptable personal growth is about cultivating the inner flexibility to roll with the punches, learn from unexpected events, and adjust our course as needed, while still maintaining our overall direction and purpose. It's about thriving in the midst of change, rather than being derailed by it. This Machiavellian emphasis on adaptability directly aligns with modern concepts of resilience, a growth mindset, and thriving in change. Resilience, the capacity to bounce back from adversity, is fundamentally about adaptability. A growth mindset, the belief that our abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work, is essential for embracing change and learning from new experiences. Thriving in change, not just surviving it, requires a proactive and adaptable approach to life, a willingness to learn, evolve, and adjust our strategies as circumstances shift. By cultivating adaptability, we move from being fragile and easily broken by change to becoming resilient, flexible, and empowered to navigate life's inevitable uncertainties with greater confidence and effectiveness. How do we cultivate adaptability practically in our personal growth journey? One approach is to consciously practice flexibility in our daily routines and plans. Challenge yourself to step outside your comfort zone, try new things, and be open to unexpected opportunities and detours. When setbacks inevitably occur, as they will, resist the urge to become rigid or give up. Instead, view setbacks as learning opportunities, analyze what went wrong, adjust your approach, and keep moving forward with a renewed and adapted strategy. Embrace the unpredictable nature of life, see change as a constant, and cultivate your inner flexibility to navigate the ever-flowing river of fortuna with skill and resilience. Cultivating a growth mindset is also crucial for adaptability. Actively challenge fixed mindsets, the belief that your abilities and qualities are fixed and unchangeable, and embrace a growth mindset, the belief that you can learn, grow, and evolve throughout your life. View challenges not as threats to your self-image, but as opportunities to learn and expand your capabilities. Embrace feedback, even criticism, as valuable information for growth. Continuously seek out new knowledge, skills, and experiences to expand your repertoire and enhance your adaptability. A growth mindset is the engine of adaptability, fueling continuous learning, evolution, and resilience in the face of change. Adaptability is not a fixed trait, but a muscle that can be strengthened through conscious effort and a growth-oriented mindset. These 4 lessons, realism, agency, strategic thinking, and adaptability, offer unexpected and potentially powerful tools for personal growth, derived from the often misunderstood philosophy of Machiavelli. However, it is absolutely crucial to address a vital element: ethical considerations and responsible application. Machiavelli's name is often associated with unethical behavior, and it's essential to ensure that we apply these lessons in a way that is ethical, responsible, and aligned with our values, not in a way that leads to manipulation or harm. Let's address these crucial ethical boundaries. It is paramount to emphasize that applying Machiavellian lessons to personal growth is not about becoming manipulative, ruthless, or unethical in our personal lives. We are not advocating for adopting Machiavellian tactics to exploit or deceive others, to gain unfair advantages, or to prioritize personal gain at the expense of ethical principles. The focus is on self-mastery, self-improvement, and navigating our own lives more effectively and intentionally, not on dominating or manipulating others. Ethical application of these lessons centers on self-empowerment and responsible action, not on unethical manipulation of others. This distinction is absolutely critical. The key distinction is between strategic self-awareness and manipulative behavior towards others. Machiavellian realism, agency, strategic thinking, and adaptability, when applied ethically, are tools for self-mastery, for understanding ourselves and the world more clearly, for taking responsible action, and for navigating our own lives with greater intention and effectiveness. They are not licenses to exploit, deceive, or harm others in the pursuit of personal gain. The ethical boundary lies in the intent and the application. Using these lessons for self-improvement and ethical action is empowering. Using them for manipulation and exploitation is unethical and ultimately self-defeating in the long run. Focus on self-mastery, not domination over others. Responsible application of these lessons must always be grounded in our own core values and ethical principles. Before applying any Machiavellian principle, ask yourself, is this action aligned with my values? Is it ethical and responsible? Does it respect the dignity and well-being of others? Use your ethical compass as your guide, ensuring that your pursuit of personal growth is always tempered by compassion, integrity, and a commitment to doing what is right, even when it's challenging or strategically less convenient. Ethical application of these lessons is about enhancing your ethical effectiveness, not abandoning ethics in the pursuit of effectiveness. Your values are your ethical anchor in navigating these potentially powerful tools. By understanding these ethical considerations and applying Machiavellian lessons responsibly and thoughtfully, we can unlock unexpected value for our personal growth journey. These principles, when ethically integrated, can empower us to become more self-aware, more agentic, more strategic, and more adaptable individuals, navigating our lives with greater intention, effectiveness, and self-mastery. So, perhaps Niccolo Machiavelli, the figure often demonized as a cynical manipulator, actually holds some unexpected and surprisingly valuable lessons for personal growth. By moving beyond the stereotype and delving into the core of his thought, we can extract principles of realism, agency, strategic thinking, and adaptability that, when applied ethically and responsibly, can empower us to become more effective, more self-aware, and more intentional individuals. These are not lessons in manipulation, but lessons in self-mastery, in navigating reality with clarity and purpose, and in taking proactive responsibility for our own lives and growth. The unexpected teacher might be found in the most unlikely of places,